Oh, the North Pole. You know, it's not just a fun, happy place where Santa lives, right? Hello everybody, I'm your host Emily, and today we are counting down the top 10 dark North Pole mysteries that will never be solved. Number 10. Strange holes. The Arctic is a strange place, and as our climate continues to change, it's changing faster than scientists can understand it. Glaciers are shrinking, sea ice is receding, and according to NASA, strange holes have started appearing in the ice, and nobody knows what causes them. Due to color change in the ice, it would appear that these holes are a result of something melting at the surface. However, exactly what that is remains a mystery. The holes were discovered during an annual flyover and became a large question mark, leading scientists to draw the conclusion that rapidly melting ice caps contribute to these odd holes, but there's no solid answer. NASA posted a photo of the holes, inviting the public to take a guess at what the photo depicts. There were plenty of creative guesses, but in the end, there's no way to know for certain what caused these strange holes without further research. Number 9. Mummies. Now, not what a child calls their mother, but the dead humans that are embalmed. In 2017, it was found that medieval mummies of Zeleny Yar burial ground were in the Arctic zone of western Siberia. A Russian woman, estimated to be roughly 900 years old, was found in the permafrost and became the first woman to be discovered in that area amongst a society of mostly men. Additionally, scientists found the mummified remains of a child not too far away, leading to a breakthrough of prior knowledge of this Arctic civilization. The unopened human remains were wrapped in birch bark, and that it is likely that this cocoon contained copper, which, combined with the permafrost, produced an accidental mummification. Fellow of the Research Center for the Study of the Arctic, Alexander Gusov, said, "We've decided, after consulting with colleagues, to take the find as a whole piece, that is, without opening it in the field, taking it for further research in the city." The birch bark cocoon is 1.3 meters in length and about 30 centimeters at the widest part. After opening it, they discovered that the woman was a member of an unknown hunting fishing civilization that lived in the area during the 12th century. The woman was aged 35 when she died, and the frost preserved her delicate features, including a full head of hair, a set of impressively preserved teeth, and immensely long eyelashes. The archaeologists also found bronze temple rings buried with her near her skull. Number 8. Lightning. Lightning happens all the time, but certain parts of the world get far less of it than others, including near the North Pole. Lightning requires atmospheric instability, something that's set up when cold, parched air sits atop warmer, wetter air. At very high latitudes, that hotter, damper air tends not to show up. That's why it took scientists by surprise when dozens of lightning strikes were detached within 300 nautical miles of the North Pole. In fact, it was so unusual that it was highlighted on Twitter by the National Weather Service's office in Fairbanks, Alaska. Although plenty of factors are needed to come together to produce lightning, the specter of climate change lingers over this meteorological mystery. It is possible that a freakishly warm Arctic, a staggering lack of sea ice, and even possibly smoke from unprecedented wildfires within the Arctic Circle, among other things, contribute to this lightning's unexpected appearance, but there's no solid answer. Weird things are happening in the Arctic, and quirky lightning is another thing we can add to the already growing list. Number 7. The monster of Iliamna. Lake Iliamna is a lake in southwest Alaska at the north end of the Alaska Peninsula. It shares a name with the Iliamna River, which flows into it. It is the largest lake in Alaska, third largest lake entirely in the United States. Now, local residents have a number of stories about the alleged Iliamna Lake monster, an unknown aquatic sea creature. Speculation exists that reported sightings may be an undocumented population of white sturgeon, which is a type of fish. If true, this would be the most northern population known to exist, just a few hundred miles from the Arctic Circle. Jeremy Wade, a presenter of Animal Planet's River Monsters, is among those who speculate these sightings of a monster is a white sturgeon. Others believe that it is a Pacific sleeper shark. Evidence of this is corroborated by a 2012 YouTube video that shows a small Pacific sleeper shark in Lake Iliamna. There were several new sightings in 2016 2017, and Anchorage Daily News once offered a prize of $100,000 for concrete proof of its existence. Number 6. Inventio Fortunata. Inventio Fortunata, fortunate or fortune-making, is a lost book, probably dating from the 14th century, containing a description of the North Pole as a magnetic island surrounded by a giant whirlpool and 4 continents. No direct extracts from the document have been discovered, but its influence on the Western idea of the geography of the Arctic region persisted for several centuries. The book is said to be a travelogue written by a 14th century Francine Frere from Oxford, who traveled the North Atlantic region in the early 1360s, making some half a dozen journeys, conducting business on behalf of the King of England. He described what he found on his first journey to the islands beyond 54 degrees north in the book, which he presented to the king. Unfortunately, by the time Atlantic explorers were seeking information in the 1490s, the book had gone missing, and it was only known through a summary of texts. The Interregnum, written by a barbarian traveler named Jacobus Cone. Jacobus' summary was the basis for the depiction of the Arctic region on many maps. But by the late 16th century, even Jacobus's text was missing. So most of what we know now of the continents of the Inventio Fortuna, other than its use on maps, is found in a letter from the Flemish cartographer Gerardus Mercator to the English astronomer John Lee, dated April 20th, 1577, which is now located in the British Library. Number 5. Mystery Islands. In 2021, an expedition off the icy northern Greenland coast spotted what appeared to be a previously uncharted island. It was small and gravelly, and it was declared a contender for the title of the most northerly known land mass in the world. The discoverers named it the northernmost island, but there was a mystery afoot in the region. Just north of Cape Morris, Jessup, several other small islands have been discovered over the decades and then just disappeared. Some scientists theorize that these were rocky banks that had been pushed up by sea ice, but they don't know for sure where these islands are coming from or where they're disappearing to. Number 4. Levanevksky's flight. On August 12, 1937, a type Bolhovoknov DB-A aircraft with a 6-man crew under captaincy of Levanevksy started its long-distance flight from Moscow to the United States via the North Pole. The radio communications with the crew broke off the next day, on the 13th of August at 1758 Moscow time, after the North Pole, when the aircraft encountered adverse weather conditions and suffered failure of its right engine. The Soviet government financed 2 aerial searches for the missing aircraft using purchased U.S. aircraft under the command of Canadian Bush and Antarctic pilot Herbert Holokian in 1937 and 1938. Jimmy Mattern flew a Lockheed 12 from California to assist in the search for his former rescuer in the initial search. After the unsuccessful search attempts, all the members of the crew were presumed dead. Number 3. Henry Hudson disappearance. Henry Hudson was an explorer born in 1570 in England. Harry was among a long list of explorers who searched in vain for a northern passage through the Arctic waters from Europe to East Asia. He made 4 voyages historians are aware of in 1607, 1608, 1609, and 1610 to 1611. While he never found a route, in Canada, Hudson Bay and Hudson Strait are named after him, as well as the Hudson River in New York State. He disappeared along with his son and 7 companions after being set adrift in a ship's boat during a mutiny on James Bay. The ship, the Discovery, became trapped in ice, which forced them to overwinter on the shores of James Bay. It was numbingly cold, supplies ran low, the men began to suffer from scurvy, and Henry began to ration food, leaving more for his favorites, especially the ship's carpenter. Henry promised to sail back home once the ice cleared, but he deceived the crew. He intended to sail farther west to explore more. The resentment and desperation culminated in a full-blown mutiny. The crew cast Henry, his son, and 7 other members off a small shallop in Hudson's Bay. According to accounts from the mutineers, they left them marooned with food, warm clothes, and some weapons, but they were never seen or heard from again. The mutineers sailed back to England and recounted their experience, and surprisingly, they were not charged or hanged for their crimes. Number 2. Hale Boggs disappearance. In 1972, a twin-engine Cessna 310 plane was carrying Rep. Hale Boggs, the House Majority Leader, Rep. Nick Begich, Russell Brown, and a Begich aide, and the pilot Don Johns. They were traveling during a campaign trip to Alaska and vanished while en route between Anchorage and Juneau. While on their flight, they just disappeared. At noon on October 17th, Rep. Tip O'Neill of Massachusetts told anxious House members that it is our hope and prayer, of course, that the men will be found safe. Their disappearance triggered the largest search and rescue operation up to that point in US history. It involved 40 military aircrafts, 50 civilian planes, a search grid of 325,000 square miles, and more than 3,600 hours of search time. After 39 days, the search was called off with no sign of the wreckage or survivors. The accident prompted Congress to pass a law mandating the installation of emergency locator transmitters in all US civil aircrafts. And with all of this, conspiracy theories have since arisen over the circumstances of Hale's death and disappearance. And coming in at number 1, Alaska Triangle. You've probably heard of the Bermuda Triangle, but have you ever heard of the Alaska Triangle? It's so interesting that the Travel Channel even made a TV series out of it, where experts and eyewitnesses attempt to unlock the mysteries of Alaska's Triangle, a remote area infamous for alien abductions, Bigfoot sightings, paranormal phenomena, and vanishing airplanes. So yeah, the Alaska Triangle has everything the Bermuda Triangle has, but with more mountains, better hiking, and a whole lot more crazy. The borders of the Alaska Triangle connect Anchorage and Juneau in the south of Utqiagvik, formerly known as Barrow, along the state's north coast. Like much of Alaska, the Triangle contains some of the most rugged, unforgiving wilderness in North America. It's an impossibly vast expanse of dense forests, craggy mountain peaks, alpine lakes, and large swaths of plain old wilderness. Amid this dramatic backdrop, it's hardly surprising that people go missing. What is surprising, however, is the sheer number of people who go missing. Add to that the fact that many disappear without a shred of evidence, and bodies, alive or dead, are rarely found. By the numbers, it seems that something more interesting might be at play. More than 16,000 people, including airplane passengers, hikers, locals, and tourists, have disappeared within the Alaska Triangle since 1988. The rate per 1,000 people is more than twice the national missing persons average, and the rate of people who are never found is even higher. The numbers don't lie, and they imply that something else is going on here other than people merely getting lost in the mountains. Well, that's all we have today. I'm your host, Emily. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.